Hey guys, so today I want to talk about a team that's doing extremely well in the Stockholm majors, namely Tundra. I believe that Tundra's current lineup is one of the very few teams that has no weak links. Everybody on their team does very well. They have a very high average, and although they don't have an exceptionally outstanding player, because they all have a very high average and they communicate very well, they have a clear plan, great item choices, that they do so well in this tournament. So I want to bring an interesting question to play. Do you guys think that the current Tundra lineup could have won TI-10? Let me know in the comments. And I'm gonna do a little analysis of their team plays and a little bit of each player, and then you guys let me know if you guys think they could have won. Alright, let's look at what I mean by clear plan and great team play. So right now, obviously Skitter is getting initiated on. Team Spirit are smoked up and they want to go kill him. 9 goes to help him and they do run away. No problem, right? So here's the thing though. Usually after they run away, the enemy team will try and push top. They would stay here maybe and try and defend. But if we take a look at mid, they see Rubik TP mid, they immediately ping it. 9 immediately TPs over and they go over to try and kill Rubik, right? And this is like an extremely great play because first of all, if the enemy team stays top to push top tower, they can push mid tower, and mid tower gives much more control over the map than top tower. Second of all, if they decide to come over and help, collapse TP top, so he doesn't have TP, they don't have enough people to fight this, and instead they decide to smoke immediately right after, right? With a person missing, they want to go on a 5-on-4 because they know that Team Spirit wants to push this tower because they think that 9 just TP'd away, and then once this happens, they actually initiate. Yatoro is forced to TP out. Puck gets doomed. He dies. Obviously, Pugna's dead for sure, right? DK can leave, but this turns into a 3-for-0. Or at least they get a tower, but they trade towers. So it's trade towers and 3 kills for nothing. So this is extremely well executed team play by Tundra. Let's take a look at another example. So right now we see that Spirit actually wanted to fight at mid earlier, so Skitter is dead, Bane's dead, Bane bought back, Doom actually bought back too, he doesn't have back, he bought. And then, so they're trying to take Roshan. Usually, you know, this is a very good chance for Team Spirit to come back, right? They have everybody there, people have buybacks, the enemy team used 2 buybacks, Skitter's still dead, 9 doesn't have ulti or Will-O-Wisp, he just used it. So, this is actually a really key dude from Saksa. He dooms Puck right here, and something to mention is in the earlier team fight where he died, he had a chance to use BKB and Doom and walked away, but he decided not to, right? This is a very clear executed plan by Team Tundra because he knows he can't get the key person. He can only doom some random person, or even if he dooms Itoro there, he wouldn't have killed. So in the meantime, they kill Puck even with the life drain. When they go on Doom, Beastmaster actually comes over and kills Pugna, and this actually turns into a very, you know, from a very dire situation into a even situation. Right now 4 people are up, 4-on-4, Puck bought back, Pugna has no buy, right? Doom already used his skills. It's a 4-on-4 and Team Spirit don't get a chance to kill Roshan anymore, and they don't have their chance to come back into this game. So it was looking like a very bad situation for Tundra, but they actually stalled it out and successfully continued to apply pressure to Team Spirit and won the game. So again, I want to show evidence from different games, not just the same game. So right here you can see that Tundra has very good team communication. Let's take a look at what happens. So they go on Sacred, you know, they get him stuns off before he gets his transformation off, which is great. They get 3 TPs over to try and help him. In the meantime, they avoid this, right? While this is happening, after he got 3 TPs, they immediately just push bot because no one can go there anymore, right? So they get free kill plus free tower, right? Very simple team play, very well executed. Alright, so let's look at a full-on team fight and see how they execute their fights as well. So right here we see Tundra smoke, and then later on we see Thunder Predators also smoke, right? So this is actually pretty interesting. So they smoke, they originally want to go and catch Saksa, right? So that's why CK doesn't go with them. Right here they are about to meet, right? Their plan is very simple, right? So it's actually very simple right here. If we take a look, without CK, or even if CK was there, they don't have enough damage to kill their cores. If they use all their skills to kill their cores, they need to use their BKBs. After their BKBs are over, they fight, right? So right here we can see they don't spend too much. Saksa doesn't even go up to cookie him. They don't care. Just let him die. He has BKB, okay? That's fine, right? After this guy's BKB is over, they just wait. On the meantime, Nine's on the side. He was waiting. Let's take a look. He's just waiting on the side. He sees a chance to kill Rubik. Alright, he goes for it. So, also see, Snake King's also waiting. Skitter is waiting, right? Once BKB is over, Phoenix immediately goes in, right? Nine's here. Right, now Panda's ulti is over. Nine dodges a stun and then goes in, spears, and just kills Kunkka, their mid. So they have a very well formulated plan. They know how to win the fight. They just wait until the enemy BKBs are over and then they initiate, because the enemy lineup actually, because Panda was extremely poor in this game. So see, he's like 6 net worth. They don't have enough damage to kill their cores, at most one person, while they use their BKBs. So after the BKBs are over, they just have to just wait and then fight. Let's start with Team Tundra's mid player 9. Personally, I believe that 9's one of the best mid players right now. It's not like he makes any crazy outstanding plays, but it's more like he makes a lot of small smart moves that they eventually stack up together and give his whole team a lead. What I mean by that is, it's not like he solo kills the enemy team, but he just makes it so his enemy laner just has a hard time. I'll show clips in the future about this. In general, he has pretty good item choices. For example, against Spirit Game 3, as a Kato, he got Orchid first item after Boots of Travels, right? Just counters the enemy puck. They have full confidence in his mid lane that he can always go at least even, so they usually early pick his position. His hero, right? For example, there's a game where he was Pangolier, enemies had a Grimstroke and Puck, right? They still picked Pangolier because they believed that he could do well in the fights, and he did, right? So in general, Nine's a really great mid player right now. I think one of the best in the whole Dota scene right now, at least. Alright, so let's take a look at what I mean by smart plays from 9. So we can see that both 9 and Abed have no bottle charges. Right now, Abed decides to go steal the bounty rune here, and instead of going to Abed's bounty rune, right, which is what a common play would be to even it out, instead 9 actually first pulls the creep wave away, right? This is really important because when he pulls this away, if Abed gets this rune and decides to walk back, by the time he gets back, the tower would have already killed like 3 creeps. He would have lost so much experience and gold, right? So right here, he actually forces Abed to TP back, which is pretty important, right? So this opens up a couple options. One, although he's level 4, if he decides to, if he gets a good chance, like if Ba was fighting over here, he could actually go and fight, and then after fighting or whatever, he can TP back mid, and he wouldn't lose anything, right? Because the creeper would follow him. If he TPs back, the creeper will walk back. He'll be perfectly fine. Second option is if he somehow gets a chance to kill Abed, Abed's TP would be on cooldown and he wouldn't be able to go mid, and he would have lost mid right off that, right? So this is a really smart move. It doesn't do anything too direct, but it's something that gives him a small lead if Abed does give him the chance. Alright, let's take a look at another example. This is Tundra versus Spirit Game 2. Right now we see that 9 doesn't have vision on the top, so he doesn't see PA or Toronto Tokyo, right? So let's see what happens. He gets initiated on, right? So instead of actually running up the cliff here and trying to walk out, what he does is actually he decides to stand next to the cliff, right? This actually makes Pangol's ult push him up, and instead of running, he decides that little time before he got stunned by Mirror, he positioned himself again so that he gets pushed down by Toronto Tokyo. This like completely nullifies Toronto Tokyo's ult, and then actually the duration ends and they actually get a kill on Toronto Tokyo, right? So, 9's plays are actually, when I saw this, I was so surprised. Like, I haven't paid too much attention to him, but me watching him, I feel like he's really one of the top mids right now. Alright, so let's take a look at another play by 9. So the main thing for mid players, right, is last hitting. That's the most important. But something equally as important is the ability to make small plays that in detail that actually affect the outcome of the team fights and everything, right? So we can take a look right here, for example, right? So right here, 9 almost dies, right? He sees his disruptor coming over to disrupt him, right? Right before he gets disrupted, right? He actually procs his regen rune, right? This is extremely important, right? Without this regen rune, after he comes out, we can see Toronto Tokyo uses his first skill, right? Would have killed 9. But instead, because of that, he's actually alive, and they end up killing Toronto Tokyo right here. It's plays like these that the attention to small details that give him a chance to really direct the outcome of the game, right? So this is really important as a mid player. Next, we have Tundra's carry player, Skeeter, right? First thing I want to point out is that he has extremely strong laning abilities. He's always able to get the last hits in, even in a bad lane. He doesn't get behind too much. He's always able to catch up and farm. He's useful in late game fights. You know, if they need him to go something like a CK to initiate, he does that too. He gets blink, you know, play late game carries like TB, he does that well also, right? He controls the lane extremely well, so he can always get last hits and he can deny much more effectively. He also has the correct times to, I don't know if this is probably a team thing, but he always chooses to use his skills at the most optimal time to harass the most efficiently. And most importantly, and this is not just him, but also for 3-3, that both of them, their position 1 and position 3 players are both extremely good at laning solo. So what I mean by, they can lane 1 versus 2 and they can still get farmed, they don't die. And then if they lane 1 against 1, they usually are able to zone out the enemy laner, so they get more farm than the enemy laner. Alright, so let's take a look at Tundra's carry Skeeter. Alright, so something that he does almost always in the lanes is he actually pulls aggro to deny the creeps even when there's no laning opponent there. He just does this as a habit. And something I want to point out, just the reason why he pulls aggro from mid instead of his laning opponent is because you don't always get to see the enemy offlaner, right? But because mid is almost always under a ward, so he can always see the mid laner. That's why he has a habit of pulling mid, right? Just something I want to point out. And this habit that he has to pull aggro and deny the range creep is really good, right? Always lets him control the wave easily, gets a lot of farm, making sure he has farm in lane, like I said. And then something I also want to point out is he knows when to give up farm and not get harassed for no reason in lane, right? Some carries are extremely aggressive, they want to get every last hit, but it actually backfires, right? For example, if there's a bunch of creeps under a tower here, his laning enemy is DK, right? He'd actually give up the range creep and just farm the melee creeps, right? Because when he tries to walk up and last hit for the range creep, DK will stun him and deny the range creep. And because of this, DK's stun is so long, the tower actually kills the melee creeps as well. So he loses not just the range creep, but the melee creeps as well. So instead of that, he actually just decides to fake going for the range creep, so DK just stands there and he actually just last hits the melee creeps, which is very good. I think something for carry is 50% of a carry's role is in the laning phase. Alright, so like I said, Skeeter has exceptional abilities for laning phase, right? He can always win the 1v1, you know, outfarm his enemy opponents. If we take a look right now, Skeleton King is almost 2k, so 1.7k in front of his laning opponent, Sacred, right? And you know, Brewmaster is not a weak laning opponent. He just gets all the last hits. If we actually look at the last hits right here, it looks close. It doesn't look like the efficiency is as great as it should be, right? It's like 57 last hits to 73. But something I want to note is out of these 57 last hits, at least 20 are from Skeleton King's skeletons, which actually only give you 5 gold, right? So that's why their net worth difference is so high. And if you look at their XP, he's level 8, level 6, you know. Because of this laning phase, this is actually a huge reason why Tundra win this game, is because Brewmaster is so underfarmed in this game that by the time he gets Ags, he doesn't have anything else, right? He goes for Urn, right? But he gets Ags first. He doesn't get the Spirit Vessel. After he gets Ags, all he has is 2 ults, and that's it. He doesn't do any damage, and they actually lack damage to kill the Tundra cores this game. So him the decimating the enemy laner actually plays a huge role in why Tundra wins their lanes. Same as 3-3, he also does really well in lane, which is why Tundra has been doing so well in this tournament. So another thing that Skitter does really well is he actually doesn't give the opponents any chances. So what do I mean by that? Let's take a look at this fight, right? So they're trying to go on high ground, you know. At this point, you know, Kunkka has Axe, he has Axe Shard. It's a lot of CC, right? It's really hard in the lane. He also has Refreshers, BKB, right? So Skeleton King, he uses his first BKB, he swaps up the Refresher Shard, right? But there's a small detail that Skitter does, right? He uses the Refresher Shard, but he does not use BKB this whole fight, even when he's getting constantly CC'd, right? Why is that? Because he doesn't want to give the enemy a chance. He just fights, he gets pushed away. You guys can argue if he opens BKB, he might get the kill on them, right? But the enemies might have buyback. They don't know this. The whole reason why Skitter keeps his BKB is because for situations like this. Let's take a look. So, Mars gets killed, 9 gets killed, right? Tundra, BKBs, TP's out. He's Yules by Panda. So the really important is that you don't get to see this, what is this? Storm Spirit? Not Storm Spirit, but the Blue Panda. Because he's invis, right? If you don't have BKB, 100% he's gonna Yules you. There's no way you can get out. So this whole fight, Skitter actually just keeps his BKB to TP out, right? This is really important. He doesn't give the enemy any chances. If he dies, they can either force a buyback, or they can, Roche is not up, but they can do something on the map, right? Make vision, whatever. But without Skitter dying, they're still forced to stay in their base. They can't get anything out of this. So something he does really well is to make sure that no matter what happens, they don't throw. You know, like those giant leads and then they get one-shotted by the enemy team because they make like 2 bad plays in a row. The Skitter always is ready to prevent that from happening, which is also a very good quality and a carry. Okay, so what to say about Snaking, Tundra's position 5 player? I personally think he's one of the few supports left that's willing to spend all their money on support items and healings for his carry, right? Nowadays, a lot of supports like to buy their own items. You know, they want to survive a little bit more. They try and be a little bit more impactful. But I think Snaking is even more impactful just because he spends all his money helping his teammates. So first of all, you guys don't see it, but if you actually take a close look at the game, his courier is always running non-stop during the game. It doesn't stop in the first like 5-6 minutes of the game. During the laning phase, it just keeps going to get heals, getting sentries, whatever. For example, there's a game where he played against Secret's Ice Ice Ice, right? He kept Ice 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 at level 1 Sand King for like 5 minutes. He just kept buying heals, kept buying sentries, blocking all the camps, making sure he can't sandstorm at all, and just chases him around the map, right? This is something that is more of like an old school support, but I think with their lineup, it's extremely effective because Skitter is able to lane by himself. Snaking gives space to all his teammates, and he just in general is such a great player to this team. Alright, so like I said, Snaking is one of the few supports right now that spends all his money on supports to try and help his teammates, right? So if we can see, he spent 4k here in this game, 750 for Saksa. The next closest one is 2.7k, which he actually splits his goal with the position 4, right? So the reason why this is so great for Tundra is because Saksa is one of those players that with items, he can make those miraculous plays, like those great initiations, the great saves, whatever hero, depends on what he's playing, right? And Snaking allows him to do that because he spends all his money on the support items and lets Saksa get his whatever he needs for team fights, which is really great for Tundra's chemistry in general. And actually, this support contribution graph doesn't actually show everything that Snaking does for his team. So if you guys actually pay attention in the games, Snaking is constantly getting heals non-stop or sentries or whatever in his games to help Skitter do well in his lane. Just look at the courier. It's literally a marathon runner. It just runs back and forth, back and forth, back and forth non-stop until they win the lane, until the laning phase is over. He spends all his money. So just by doing this, it just makes their laning phase so much easier. Skitter gets infinite heals, he can trade with the enemies, even when he picks aggressive heroes like Skeleton King or CK, which is they both can heal in lane, right? He still constantly gets heals, sentries, whatever, spends all his money blocking the enemy camps if needed, gets sentries if they're Sand King or whatever. He's just a great support in general. Not to mention, just look at how many wards Snake King buys throughout the game. His vision game is always so great, gives so much information to his team, right? For example, like this is actually a game-winning play right here. So he has a ward sentry right there. Tiny's farming under it, right? And they see this. They see Tiny, right? And then so 3-3 actually shows in lane. As Thunder Predators are behind, they actually want to make a play here. So anticipating this, Snake King already puts down a ward, puts down a sentry, and Saksa's in position, right? They're ready to catch off this Tiny. And I don't know throughout the game if they just have great communication throughout Tundra, right? Throughout this game, Tiny and Magnus, they both have BKB, but they always get stun locked and died. They never get their BKBs out. This happens at least 6 or 7 times throughout the game, right? Completely dominates Thunder Predators, and they have no buyback on their position 2 or 3. And pretty much this is a game-winning play, right? All thanks to Snake King's vision. So that's why it shows how important it is for supports to do vision, right? Without vision, no matter how good your carry is, they can only perform 50% of their skill or even less. So great job by Snake King. Next we have Saksa, Tundra's position 4 player. So he's one of those players that has the ability to make these insanely key plays that are super impactful into the game. That's not something that every player has or is capable of. And then on top of that, he has this insanely annoying hero pool to play against, right? For example, just off the top of my head, he has position 4 Doom. You don't see anyone else doing that. That just, with one skill and no items, he's able to shut down your carry for the majority of the game. And then on top of that, he does so well with items. Comboed with Snake King, who spends all his money on support items, allows Saksa to get like Ags, Blink, whatever he needs for team fights, right? And he actually becomes a real threat in the games. He's not a core player, he doesn't play a core role, but he has the impact of a core, which is super important into their lineup. On top of that, because his heroes are so annoying to play against, like enemy teams have to spend a bunch of ban spots for him. But if they spend too many on him, then the rest of his team gets such a free time. So it's not just in-game, but also outside of the game during the drafting phase that he has an impact. Another thing I didn't mention is that Saksa's extremely aggressive in lane, which gives 3-3 a lot of space to farm, right? So let's take a look right here. So Saksa is he's the type of support that's not afraid to trade with the enemy team, right? He just, look at how much damage he's doing to Yatoro. He just keeps right clicking, doesn't even care if Mira's right clicking him, you know, he just keeps trading. He's basically 1-on-2ing with trades, right? He just keeps harassing both teams. And if you know, during the lane, if you're a carry and the enemy position 4 keeps clicking on you, it actually makes last hitting a lot harder too, because you're trying to avoid dropping your HP too low so that the enemy can kill you. But while at the same time you have to pull the creeps to you and last hit, it just lowers the efficiency of the enemy last hitting. Not to mention, he's always there to try and get the range creep so that they don't lose out on EXP. And then he even watches out for pulls, right? He's just super aggressive in the lane. Alright, let's take a look at another example. So right here we see 3-3 pull the lane back to farm, and Saksa's here harassing the 2 people, right? He's in a bad position, they're caught, so they try and kill him, right? Look at how much time they spend here, like just trying to get him, right? He has Fairy Fire, and then in the meantime he's just farming the whole time, doesn't even care. He actually dodges the shockwave right here too as well, and ends up actually getting away scot-free without dying, right? Look at how much time they're wasting here. Just look at how much, in the meantime, Tundra's offlaner 3-3, right? He's just been farming, right? From the start of this endeavor until the time these two come back, he went from level 1, like less than half XP, to getting this wave, and he's like almost level 3, right? This whole time, just how much space Saksa gives, right? He goes back and then gets items, whatever, right? This whole time, Magnus lost out on so much farm, right? It went to the tower, they pulled whatever, just such a good play from Saksa. Okay, so last but not least, we have Tundra's position 3 player, 3-3. dude, this guy is actually insane. Like, his microing skills are so crazy. So during the lane, at least for this major, he's been picking Lycan, picking Beastmaster, right? He's just microing the wolves, microing the boar, whatever. He's just been such a great asset to Tundra's lineup, because not only is he able to self-sustain with these heroes, right? He's also able to push the tower whenever people rotate off the lane. And a huge problem, I think, right now for the scene of Dota is that the majority of offlaners now cannot be left alone. Whenever they're left alone, even if they have like a winning hero against the enemy carry, they actually end up getting zoned off or almost getting killed or whatever, when they should be more aggressive and they should be winning their lane. This is also one of the reasons why Tundra has been doing so well. 3-3 is extremely good at laning. Even when he's laning against 1 versus 2, right, he's able to get last hits, especially when he plays heroes like Beastmaster and Lycan. He actually uses his wolves or boar, whatever, to pull the lane while he's last hit. It's actually pretty insane if you watch him closely. He can last hit while pulling the wolves at the same time. So he's actually like switching between the screens non-stop at a crazy rate, which is really great and really hard to do, right? And then most importantly, he knows when to fall back, right? He's pulling the creeps, he knows when he can't go up, and without dying in the lane, you know, he doesn't let the enemy carry get too farmed, right? That's something really important. So let's take a look at a couple examples of what I've been talking about. Okay, so right here we have a clip of 3-3 laning against 2 players, right? His support has gone to mid to get XP, that's great. And we see Maposhka is here harassing him, right? And instead of running away and just trying to farm this wave under the tower, he realizes that stun's been used, the slow's been used, right? There's no slows or anything. He immediately just goes aggressive, and he actually gets a kill on Maposhka, right? Which is extremely, in a 1 versus 2 situation and you still get killed, and your carry can't even get that much farm, that's extremely bad for your lane, right? It's not, this is important because, like I said, 3-3 is extremely good at laning, right? He knows when to fall back, but he's not overly falling back, right? When he does have a chance, he grabs it, he kills the enemy support. Great play from him. Level 6 right now. Now Yatoro has to be even more careful. He doesn't know whether Doom got Doom or not, right? He can get solo killed right now if he wants to. So, very great play from 3-3. Alright, and if we take a look right here at 10 minutes, you know, he has top net worth at 10 minutes, right? I know he's a Doom, he got Midas, he got Devour, right? But he was laning 1 versus 2 for a majority of that lane, right? And he's still at top net worth. This actually means so much for him, right? So obviously the other carries, the enemy carries are doing well, so his support has to go rotate off and help, right? But him being at the top net worth really helps his team out, right? Means that he can apply pressure as soon as he gets his BKB. Even without the BKB, he has Doom, right? He's always a threat to the enemy carries. So again, we see that he's laning here by himself, right? Just now, Saksa TP'd home, right? And he knows he can't really lane that well, because especially into a Magnus Bane lane, right? If he's not careful, if the wave, they control it over here, if he gets slept, they just skewer him back into the tower. So he just immediately uses, look at this, he's grabbing the creeps while he's still last hitting over here, right? He still gets the last hits, and the creeps follow him. He even uses this because wolves are really fast. So he even slows down, holds for a position, pulls the creeps over, and then grabs the creeps and pulls it to the behind tier 1 tower, right? This is so great. Not to mention, let's see what he does, right? So after he pulls the lane and he controls it here, he actually creates wolves and he goes sends it over to help Saksa harass, right? This is something that, you know, if he's by himself, there's a chance of him dying, but with the wolves, they can creep block, they can do damage. It's really just aggressive lane for them, even when when it's a losing lane, right? And then if we zoom in a little closer into the game, we see that right here after laning, you know, Magnus, first of all, he has a XP lead, right? And then immediately before 9 minutes, he sends his wolves over to block the camps, right? So 3D just has great micro control over the game, throughout the game. And if we look on later, he uses the wolves to creep block a BKB Tiny, and they get a kill on him as well. So guys, do you think this lineup could have won TI10? Let me know in the comments, and yeah, see you guys next time.